Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian, where I do my very best to bring you what the Bible really says. I'm trying to give you the whole thing. I have never claimed to be an expert. In fact, I encourage you, you can't just listen to me or anybody else. You need to listen to God. And a big piece of this is you've got to get the whole thing. Way too much of modern Christianity is focused on the positive, encouraging, safe for the whole family, feel good Jesus. And that's only one piece of it. If that's what you're looking for, you have to actually cut out huge chunks of the Bible. You can't read a bunch of this stuff and get that warm, fuzzy feeling because God is more than a warm fuzzy. And if you want to follow the real God, if you want to have a real life change by the real living God of the universe, then you need to learn how to take him as he is. We need to recognize him for who he really is in his entirety. No, you can't fully conceive everything about him. If you could, he would be a pathetic God. But he is still so much more than just this happy, clappy, warm, fuzzy thing. And I'm so tired of that being the image that is portrayed to Christians, and that's the image that's portrayed of Christians. And I'm sick of it. It's got to stop. One of my top examples that has just become a pet peeve of mine is Psalm 46:10. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." It's on coffee mugs and t-shirts all over the place. But we always seem to interpret this as let go and let God. Just be still and rest and don't worry about anything because God is God and everything is great. While it is entirely true that God is in control and all of our freaking out and worrying about things accomplishes very little, that's not what this verse is talking about. This is not a parent talking to a fearful child saying, "It's okay, calm down, I've got it under control." That's not what this is. Let's back up a little bit and start reading at verse 8. "Come, see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world. He causes wars to end throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and snaps the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world." This is the context. When he says, "Be still and know that I am God," he's saying, "Sit down before I knock you down." He's speaking to his enemies and saying, "Who do you think you're trying to fight against? You don't even understand what you're dealing with." And it's something that we have totally lost, that this psalm was celebrating God for bringing destruction, for breaking the bow and snapping the spear, for his power. We don't have any modern worship songs like this. But biblical worship celebrates that side of God too. God deserves to be worshiped for his might, and the fear of the Lord is a good thing. No, we don't need to be terrified of him all the time, but we do need to recognize just how tremendous he is. And like he was saying there, of who is it you think you're messing with? I fear that we've put ourselves in the position that God would be talking to us and saying, "Be still and know that I'm God." You need to stop this craziness. Stop all this nonsense you're doing that you think and tell people is for me and realize who I really am. That's the God that I'm afraid we have lost. And we can move outside of Psalms. Nahum 1, starting at verse 5. "In his presence, the mountains quake and the hills melt away. The earth trembles and its people are destroyed. Who can stand before his fierce anger? Who can survive his burning fury? His rage blazes forth like fire, and the mountains crumble to dust in his presence." When's the last time someone encouraged you to celebrate God for that? Because the Bible itself celebrates God for that. And it's not just Old Testament either. In Acts chapter 5, there's a story about Ananias and Sapphira, this husband and wife who sold some land, brought the money to the church, and acted like they were giving all the money, but they didn't give all the money. But they were pretending to. They were trying to be celebrated for doing something bigger than what they actually did. But you can't fool God. The Holy Spirit revealed it to Peter, who calls the guy out face to face. And verse 5 tells us, as soon as Ananias heard these words, he fell to the floor and died. Everyone who heard about it was terrified. And yeah, I'll bet they probably were. And a while later, his wife comes in. Peter doesn't just accuse her right away, he gives her a chance and says, "Hey, is this really how much you sold the land for?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, it was." And starting at verse 9, Peter said, "How could the two of you even think of conspiring to test the Spirit of the Lord like this? The young men who buried your husband are just outside the door, and they will carry you out too." Instantly, she fell to the floor and died. When the young men came in and saw that she was dead, they carried her out and buried her beside her husband. Great fear gripped the entire church and everyone else who heard what had happened. In a lot of modern church settings, you will hear that the fear of the Lord doesn't really mean fear. It's like awe and respect and reverence. But this story we just had, that's not reverence, that's fear. And I think we've lost it and we're suffering for it. We need to get back a full picture of who God is. We cannot just celebrate the parts that we like and make us feel good because we don't get to decide who God is. He is Himself. He is complete without us. And He has made a way for us to come to Him, but we don't get to come any way we want. He gets to decide how it works. He gets to make the rules because He's God. And if we're ignoring big aspects of who He says that He is, then we're not really following who He is. That's worshiping our own idea of what we think God should be like or what we wish God was like. And I don't know about you, but I'm not content with that. My own ideas don't do me any good, but God, the real God, the creator of the universe, the source of all power that ever exists, that God can do a heck of a lot. I want to be connected to Him. And so I need to know Him as He really is. That is the source of the power that every one of us needs in our lives.